Testing. All right. Oh, yeah. All right. Why am I echoing? Let's go. Might as well keep my phone here just in case. Who knows?
Recording in progress.
What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, hang on. I got to do some...
All right. Very cool. Thank you for doing this, by the way.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry. I got to... let's see. Pushing buttons. All right. How's that?
That sounds 10 times better.
Okay.
Very cool. Thank you for doing this, by the way. Do you mind if we record this?
Oh, no, not at all. Can you... Is my audio and video okay?
Yeah, it looks perfect.
All right.
Actually, let me just double check with because you just changed it a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I am good friends with Joel Godet.
Yeah.
And so he was telling me about you. Obviously, I know about you. So he's like, you should get him on the show. And so he actually gave me a couple questions to give you.
Oh no. Okay.
So and they're pretty funny. I think you're gonna like them. But
okay.
So a little bit about type 1 lifting. So I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've been a diabetic for about like 7 years. Same with like Joel's been is a type 1 diabetic too. So I found out my disease on my new hire orientation at the children's hospital I used to work at. And so so it's crazy. So I went in, checked my blood sugar. It was like 290. 390. And then they're like, you need to check your blood sugar again for like a 12-hour fast. And I was like, okay, no problem. Go and check it again 12 hours later. It was like 271. And so the normal ranges are like 80 to 120 or 130. So that's like really, really high.
Oh.
And so I lost like 20 pounds. I was like, oh, shit.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like in 3 months. So.
That's so weird. Like, how does that happen?
I have no idea. But it's, and so then while I'm at the hospital, like I get diagnosed with diabetes, and I welcome the new onset of diabetics that come in, like at the children's ER. And so I'm like, hey, welcome to the club. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah.
And there was a mom crying hysterically outside in the hallway one day. And so I was like, what's going on with her? And so they're saying that, her 5-year-old daughter just got diagnosed with diabetes.
Dang.
And I was like, that sucks. I mean, that really sucks. And so I walked in and I'm like, hey, welcome to the diabetes club, like high five. And the mom's looking at me like, the hell's wrong with you? Like what are you thinking? And so I told them that I'm a type 1 diabetic, told them my story. I mean, obviously like getting diagnosed at like 34 compared to being 5 is a whole different scenario, but like you're in the greatest place to learn about diabetes, and you're going to be fine. Like, trust me, there's going to be some ups and downs, but I mean, you're in the best place possible. So the mom thought the mom brought her and the mom upstairs, and the mom gave me the biggest hug. She's like, thank you for kind of calming me down. I thought this was like really bad. And I was like, if you need anything, here's my email address, just reach out. Seriously, I don't, that you can ask me any questions and I'd be glad I can help. And so she gave me a big hug, and I was like, you know what? I need to do a little bit more than just talking to people. And so I like working out. I love CrossFit, and I love t-shirts. And so I started this t-shirt company, Type 1 Lifting. And so proceeds of the shirts go to the Children's Diabetes Foundation. So this is the logo that I designed. I don't know if you can see it a little bit.
I can see it.
Yeah. So the blue circles are the symbol for diabetes.
Oh, okay.
And so I made it as the weights. And then that's me on there, because I don't want to use anybody else's picture, so I won't get in trouble. So
that's good.
I've gotten 1,000 down. I've gotten almost close to I think I'm probably like $100 off of $1,000 for donations for the shirts. So it's a long process. It's like a pain in the ass. Like selling t-shirts is tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
So, and then I wanted to do podcasts, because I've been listening to podcasts for like 10 years. And so I was like, okay, I gotta do this. And so I was supposed to do it with a couple of other my buddies. They didn't work out, and I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna do it myself. And so it works. I'm almost at like 9. I think your episode will be like 82 for interviews.
Oh wow, cool.
And I have a total like 115 episodes.
Oh dang.
And so I got about like I think I have like close to like 9,000 downloads so
good
far. So I'm not as big as you or like some other people, but I'm like, I love it. It's a lot of fun. I like to meet new people like yourself and other people. And if you told me 2 years ago, if I got the chance to talk to like these people that I have on my podcast, you'd be like, you're insane.
So well, that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. So obviously with the podcast, I'd like to talk about like your CrossFit experience. Being a dad is one thing I really want to talk about too, and then like being a podcaster, and all that stuff, and Joel's questions. So
Okay. He always has good questions.
Yeah, they're really good. I was like,
he does. That guy does his homework.
Yeah, I was like, what questions should I give him? And I'm not gonna tell you yet, but
okay,
he's like, this one, and this one. I'm like, wow, I never would have thought. I never would have like even asked those kind of questions. So I'm looking forward to this. So
that's awesome.
We're gonna start. So. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Type 1 Lifting Podcast. I am very excited, as always, for every guest I have. He is a broadcaster, a podcaster, owner of CrossFit Big D, Chase Ingraham. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, listen, I really do appreciate you taking the time talking to me. I really want to pick your brain for a couple things, but I know you're you're kind of a new dad of two kids, a boy and a girl.
Yes. So, boy, girl, dad.
Yep. That's me exactly. My first child's a boy, and then I have a girl. So, what are the ages of your kids?
3.5 is the boy.
Okay.
1.5 is the girl. So I had the boy first.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Mine are 6 and 3. So obviously being a new dad, especially with the boy, like what was going through your mind throughout the whole process, even like when your son was born?
It's funny is that I'm a pretty like emotional dude when it comes to like emotion stuff, not pain or whatever. Like that stuff doesn't bother me, but like you get the right commercial and it'll get me. And so if I ever like make a speech or talk about someone that I care about, I usually can't finish. And so I always thought that when my son was going to be born, I would just be like a mess. Like just emotional mess. And it ended up being like a pretty long, tough delivery for my wife. So by the time like he was kind of coming out, it had been hours, like all day. Oh. And I just remember like him coming and like the nurses, like they had to have NICU nurses there and like just whisked him away really quick. So I was like, huh. I didn't have time to cry. The only thing I felt was that I had this like work stub and I just clocked in. I was like, here we go for life. Just pulled the handle down, stamped my ticket, punch in. There's no punching out. And just felt like this overwhelming sense of I'm in. Like there's no turning back. All the lead up to this and the pictures and the sonograms and your friends having kids and telling you what to do and him moving around in the belly. Until he came out and I saw him and held him in my hands, I was like, I have a kid now. Until you see him, it's still just theoretical, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, so that's what it was like. I was like, all right, punching in, dad time.
Yeah. So what were some things that you were told and you don't even use them anymore? Like, don't even like use what people tell you.
Oh yeah, I got a great one. So, it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
We'll preface that. But all of my friends who had kids before me were like, oh, when you see him and the baby comes, you'll truly know what love really is. And, like what type of like caring and life has new meaning. And like, there's none of that. Like when he came out, I was like, oh, like, stuff just got real. I was like scared. Like I didn't love like this child any more than I've loved everything in my life. Like, I just like watched my wife go through agony to pop this guy out. And now he's here screaming in my face. And I'm just happy to see him because it was hours before I thought I would. And I just felt like I was going to work.
Yeah.
Like, okay. I didn't have that like euphoric, new lease on life moment of the kid. And then the first night home was hell. The first night from the hospital, he was screaming all night and we're trying to like feed him, and breastfeeding is like a Rubik's Cube of like 16 different colors as opposed to just like 6. And it was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, to the point like we're sitting on my son's floor, like rocking this screaming baby, looking at each other. And we're like, are we sure? Are we sure? I know this is everything I ever wanted, because like all I wanted to do when I was growing up, like they're like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, I want to be a husband and I want to be a father. Those were the answers that I would give. And I already was a husband to an incredible wife. I outkicked my coverage as if I'm like an NFL punter.
Yeah.
And then, selfishly, I was like, I wanted a boy. Obviously, you want like a healthy, happy child with 10 fingers and 10 toes. But I got a boy. Like I got everything I ever wanted in my life, and I'm sitting there like 3 days into it, like questioning everything. So it was not a euphoric start to the birth, but we cut our teeth there in the trenches with Dylan, and 2 years later we decided that he needs I'm the oldest of 3 boys, so having siblings was always a point of pride for me. Is like, hey, me and my brothers, right? Like our little wolf pack, and my sister, she has a younger sister, so we wanted him to have a sibling, which is the only reason why we had the second one. Like if we were only kids, he was going to be an only kid. That's the myth.
Well, I luckily, knock on wood, I've been very lucky. Like my son and my daughter have never really screamed at night at all, but like they would cry just because they're hungry. But like, I remember when my son Bennett was born, the next door neighbors, they just had a kid too, and their kid sounded like a pterodactyl screaming.
Man!
All night. I felt so bad. I'm like, my wife and I were like, should we give him like a swaddle, like blankets, and like swaddle him, or do you want me to like teach him? And it was weird because like I'm very good at swaddling because like especially from working at the children's hospital, so I was like a pro. We were like almost gonna give him that, and I felt so bad. They were like, they definitely got like no sleep for like 3 days straight being there. I was like,
man,
there's no way. And even with my daughter, like we're super lucky. Like they sleep through the night. We don't have any like really issues. Like one time, like we had to wake up in the middle of the night because she got sick or Bennett got sick, and that was pretty much the gist of it. And they sleep through the whole night still. So it's crazy. And I'm very lucky I actually have that, because I can't imagine with your situation, like waking up in the middle of the night, like just rocking the kid to sleep and be like, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? So.
Oh yeah. I think that morning after the first night, and there, a lot of things went into that. Like we found out that he wasn't getting enough food, and we found out later, but so it wasn't like our baby's broken, but that's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
It's like, is it broken? I'm like texting one of our good friends. She's a NICU nurse, and she worked nights. So when I'm up with him, she's at work. Like she works 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Right. So I'm like, hey, Jules, like, what's up? And she's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, all right, because I think I have a defective toy here. But no, he, we paid our dues early with him. The second one, Blake, she was super easy. Classic newborn. But it was, it's funny because like our street has a lot of young families in our neighborhood. And I went for a walk last night, and you just pass by a house and you just hear a baby crying in the house. And then part of me, I'm just like, good. I'm not the only one. Everybody's got to pay their dues.
Yeah. So, are you? I know this is kind of personal, but are you potty training your oldest right now?
Oh, he's done. Yeah, he's good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like our quarantine thing.
Oh, okay, very cool. Yeah.
It all kind of lined up. So I guess Blake, my daughter, she was born mid-February, a month before we got locked down into quarantine in 2020.
Yeah.
My son is 2 years older in the same month. They're only 2 weeks apart. Well, they're 2 weeks to the date apart, but they're 2 years apart. So during quarantine, we're like, okay, time to potty train our kid. We've got nothing else to do. And so that was kind of our quarantine thing, was potty training our son.
Yeah, it's a little bit different when you get to a girl. So like,
I have no idea what to do with that.
It is so weird. It's like for us, the way we did it was like she was like naked pretty much like the whole time, and like we
naked time.
TV, put a potty in front of the TV, and like she would not go. She'd be like super nervous, and then like she'd like pee on the floor like a foot away, and it's just like what are you doing? And like when she gets excited, she'll start jumping around and then like having accidents and stuff like that. And then when it came to, I know this is like super personal, like when it comes to like pooping, it's a different story. So it's like takes forever.
Dude.
So
it was like Dylan. So we read all the books. You're like, okay, if he pees somewhere, it's like it's like the opposite of a dog, right? Like Dylan would be outside peeing. We're like, no, you got to pee in the toilet inside. So we pick him up and run him to the toilet inside. We're like a dog, like a puppy. If it's like pissing on your carpet, you pick it up and run it outside. But, we kept sitting him down because that's what the book said. And I was like, this guy's been watching me pee for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, because I would take him. I was like, hey, I got to go pee. So you know the process. And finally that night, I was like, hey, just go stand on your stool and pee in the toilet. And like, first try, I was like, done. We're not sitting we're not sitting down. We were standing up and we're peeing like boys. And like, it was funny as we tried so hard to get him to sit and he wouldn't do it. And as soon as he figured out he could stand, good to go.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm all in.
Yeah. I've been watching Dad do this for 2 years. I don't have no clue what to do with Blake. Like, I grew up in a family of boys. My mom is basically just another one of the guys. Like, we didn't grow up with like any like female like wherewithal whatsoever. And my wife gives me so much crap for it because it's just like weird things when she's like, oh, I can't work out in the morning. I was like, why not just go for a run? She's like, in the dark by myself. I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, you can't do that. Or she'll like unlock her car and I'm getting in on the passenger side and the door won't open. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I don't want someone on that side to just be able to get into my car. It only unlocks my door. I'm like, oh, right. I don't think about these things because I didn't grow up with anything like that. And then the other one was boy poops and cleaning from diapers are much different than girl poops and cleaning diapers. Where I was like, oh, there's so many places it goes. I was like, I've never had to wipe front to back for my son. Yeah. But with the daughter, I was like, I can see why dads get really close to their daughters now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like wrapped. She's, and like what we've noticed for us is like we were like really timid with the first one, like, oh, don't do that, like, no, don't jump off the couch and stuff like that. And here's my daughter, like, just turned 3, like jumping off the couch onto the carpet, and like before, if that was Bennett, we'd be like, no, you can't do that. But now it's just like, have at it. Or like, I would like throw her up in the air as high as possible, and like, even with Bennett, I started doing that at the pool, but like that was like later on. But now she's like, enough to like, get her up there, and it's a whole different story. And like for me, holding her is like a little bit different than Bennett, even though I love Bennett so much. It's just like something with girls, with dads, it's like a game changer. So it was I was and before Blake was born, I was such like a bro talking about having a daughter. I was like, oh, all the dudes, and they'll be like me, and all my youthful boy sins are going to fall on the shoulders of my daughter. I feel like that's just the circle of life. And that was what I was worried about. You know, with my son, I'm like, hey, listen, don't get anybody pregnant. Right. Yep. And I was talking to a guy and I was like, I'm really worried about having a daughter just because of classic guy mentality. Yeah. Guy thought. Yeah.
And he's like, he had a daughter, and he's like, listen, she is going to be fine if you teach her how to be confident. If you show her that she doesn't need to rely on anyone or anything to feel worthwhile, right? To have self-esteem, to have confidence. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, and you're the first person to teach her what a good dude really is.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
You're her only example of a male figure in her life. So like how you act around other people, how you act around, other girls, how you interact with your wife, how you treat her, right? She only knows a man's love through dad. That's her first love. And I was like, dang. And then I was like, all right, I can do that. Right? Like I can show her as like, you don't need to, you don't need to attach yourself to anyone or anything to feel worthwhile or worthless, And the other one is like, I look at my wife who is like straight-laced, hard-nosed, no BS, and doesn't I can't sweet talk her, I can't swindle her. There's like a 4-month more like courtship just to like talk to her when we first met. And I was like, well, if she's anything like Ashley, I have nothing to worry about. And so those are the things I'm taking with me as a new dad, especially a girl dad. And now I love it. Like, yeah. I love being a girl dad.
Yeah, very cool. There's a book that's out there. It's called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. Have you ever heard of it before?
No, I haven't heard that.
So it's a new book. It's a book. So this, I have a friend of mine that had 3 daughters, and like I used to be a personal trainer and like trained one of them. Okay. And he was like, you got to read this book. I give this book to everybody that has a daughter, and it's an absolute game. You'll learn so much from that book. I'm still in the process of getting to it because I have like a long like list of books I'm trying to finish off.
I know.
But he said you got to read it before she turns like 5, and then you'll kind of be okay and like figure out like, okay, this is how you raise a daughter.
All right, I'm gonna look up that. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, I'll find out what the author is. It's on my bookshelf over there, but I'll get it later. So
okay.
But enough about kids. So I was doing a little bit of research on you, and I had no idea in high school you were like a water polo player.
Yeah, water polo. That was my big sport.
Yeah. So what made you get into that?
Oddly enough, I was too small and slow and weak to play football. But that sport also requires those other 3 things that I just listed off. So growing up, there's nothing I wanted more than to be a professional football player. Mm-hmm. My dad played a little bit professionally. And so that was always like, I want to be like my dad. Like my dad is my hero. Yeah. He still is my hero. And, I've always wanted to live up to goals he set or expectation, whatever it was. It's like, I just want to be like dad. Right. And that involved playing sports and wanting to be a football player. Unfortunately, puberty did not agree with the timeline at which I was working with. So after my freshman year of high school, first semester, which is when, Texas, and I'm in Texas, right? It's like we're talking about Texas high school football.
Yeah, which is pretty legit. It's compared to like
this might as well be professional football. Yep. Yeah. And I was 5 coming in my freshman year. I was like 5'2", 125.
Wow. Okay.
And I was too slow to be a wide receiver. I was too small to be a quarterback. And they just kind of like put me on the field on like the C team of the 3rd string of like a receiving tight end. Mm-hmm. And when that season was over, my mom, who in college was a swimmer, made Olympic trials and had played water polo for the men's club team at the University of Arizona because they didn't have a women's water polo team.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, my mom was super hardcore.
Yeah.
Like she only picked the starting middle linebacker team captain of the University of Arizona, which was my dad, because he was the only one that could like stand up to par of like her athleticism. I was like, all right, then. Thanks for the genetics, I guess. I'm still waiting on them, but and so my mom was like, hey, why don't you play water polo? Because that was the 2nd semester. Yep. And I hadn't really swam before. I did like summer league, the 6-week neighborhood swim team for a couple of years. Maybe when I was like 12 was when I started. And so I went to play water polo. Like I could swim. Like my mom taught me how to swim. Yeah. But I could play sports. And in the water, size, especially in water polo, doesn't really have as much weight, say, on a football field. So I could read the pool, I could know the plays, I could throw hard, I could catch, because I played baseball and soccer and basketball and football. Like I wasn't that good, but I played all the sports. So when you start playing like an athletic sport in high school, like water polo with a bunch of swimmers, then you look real good. You're just slow at swimming. And I fell in love with it because I was like, okay. And I was pretty good at it. We went to the state championships my freshman year. I was the only sub off the bench as a freshman that had a team of 12 seniors on it. Wow. I was like, okay, maybe this is my sport. It's still violent. Mm-hmm. It's still tough. And now I'll just try to swim to get better at water polo. And that's kind of how I got into it. So it was all my mom. So funny enough, is like I spent 16 years trying to be like my dad, and then I ended up being like my mom.
Yeah, very cool. So I've seen water polo before in the Olympics. Yeah. And so I'm little like my one quick question is like, obviously when you have the ball and like someone's playing mm-hmm. defense on you and like they kind of like bash their head to the player. Yeah. So like, yeah. What's the reason why they do that?
So if you have the ball and you're being defended, when the offensive player drives his head into the defender, it's to make it look like he's getting fouled. So like you have unlimited fouls in water polo. You have things that are called kickouts. So, there'll be like an ejection. Mm-hmm. So you can't pull someone underwater, and you can't pull someone backwards if they have the ball, like if they're going for the ball. So you basically can't tug them or pull them underwater. That's usually that'll get you kicked out. But everything else is good go. So like if I mob you and knock the ball out of your hand, it's a foul, so you get a free pass.
Okay.
And so that's why they do that, right? So they get a foul, and then the defender has to back off a meter, mm-hmm. and then they have 3 to 5 seconds for a free throw.
Okay.
So they can pass it anywhere they want. So instead of being mobbed and trying to throw, they get a foul, defender backs off, you get a free throw. That's why they do it.
Okay, cool. So you can could a defender like hold their arm out on the person's body just to kind of like not make them move forward at all, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like if they had a camera, what actually goes on under the water, it already looks pretty tough above the water, but underneath the water is where like the nasty stuff happens.
Very cool. Yeah. I've looked at it and I've always like watched like full games and I'm like, why are they doing this? And it's like,
yeah,
and it's super interesting because like I love the Olympics. I love watching like all different types of sports, and that one I always like am like just zone out and just watch, like just continuously watch it. It doesn't matter if it's like boys or girls.
Yeah, so. It's good. And our women's water polo team is awesome. Our men's is good, but like those like European teams are like that's one of their main sports, right? Like our 4 major sports don't translate to the Olympics as much as classic Olympic sports. So those like Eastern European teams are just brutal.
Yeah.
But our men are very good too. They've gotten a lot better over the last 20 years.
Yeah. So have you ever gotten freaked out in the water at all?
Not in a pool setting.
Okay.
I've been tossed under a couple waves in the water where I had a small moment of panic, but no. I'm pretty comfortable. I'm pretty comfortable being uncomfortable in the water, whether like I feel like I'm running out of air or, I'm in an underwater tussle. That's usually never a problem.
Okay. All right.
Which is nice, like if you go on river trips, because like, people tend to like talk a lot the drunker they get. I'm like, man, like we're in the water. Like you'd have no idea. It'd be like me talking crap to like a wrestler or an MMA fighter in a bar.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea what's about to happen to you if you continue down this course. And I felt like the same thing floating on an inner tube. Mm-hmm. I was like, all right, as long as we stay in the water, I'll be okay. On land, different story.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So, after your polo career, was that when you started getting into CrossFit, and like how did that start?
Well, actually, I played water polo all the way through high school, but I continued my aquatic career in swimming in college. Mm-hmm. So after college, I did the Globo Gym thing. I ran a lot while I swam, so that was a accessory to my swim training. So I felt like the natural progression for swimmers when they get out of college is triathlon. So that's actually what I did first.
Okay.
And I did that for about 2 years out after swimming. And I really wasn't, this sounds very vain, but I wanted to look more athletic, right? I wanted muscles. Like swimming doesn't really give you that.
No.
Like, it does for some people that just have the genetics for it. And I have the genetics for it, but, like I wanted to look like my dad or arms like my mom and just like have abs. And so after like 2 years of triathlons, I didn't look what I wanted to look like. And I was like, I just want to spend some time building muscle because I've never had any, not with swimming. Mm-hmm. And I ran into a buddy of mine that I swam with in college in 2008. And in college, he was kind of like me, just a soft-bodied swimmer, right? Like swimmers don't really need that much muscle, unless they're sprinters, right? And he looked great, like lost 10, 15 pounds. He had abs. I was like, dude, his name's Justin Smith. I was like, what do you have been doing? I was like, I'm doing CrossFit. I was like, I don't even know what that is. And leading up to it, I'd been looking at, there's this old sports program called Velocity. And it was basically like personal training. And like, I've been looking into personal training or something, because I just didn't know what to do. I had no idea. Like aimlessly walk around Globo gyms and just look at dudes that have things that I want on their body. And then I watch them do it. And then I try to repeat it. That was basically my weight training. It's like, that guy's got big arms. Let me watch him for 10 minutes. And then when he leaves, I'll come in and do the same thing. That's really what it was.
Yeah.
Like I spent 3 hours in the gym, like half of it observing people in the wild and then trying to replicate that. So he's like, I do CrossFit. I'm like, I'm coming. When? He goes, coming tomorrow. So it was the next day. It was a Monday. I saw him on the weekend. And walk into my first CrossFit gym. It's CrossFit Dallas Central here in Dallas, Texas. And our first workout was Fran.
Oh.
Which... unbeknownst to me, he has the workout on the board, 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups. I was like, okay, what's a thruster? He shows me that, and I do one. I had 95 on the bar, but he's like, let's scale the way back to 75. I'm like, fine, whatever. It's my first workout.
Yeah.
He's like, now go over here to the pull-up bar, and he's like, you can kip. I was like, oh, you mean I can cheat?
Yeah,
like everybody.
Of course. Yeah.
But I was good at strict pull-ups. That's just what I was good at. So when I could kip, I was like, oh, this is even better. And I walk in and 3, 2, 1, go. I do 21 thrusters unbroken, 21 pull-ups unbroken. I walk back to the bar, put my hands on it, and immediately stand up. And I'm like, oh no, something has gone wrong. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to pace. So, and I'm the new guy, right? I'm the new guy with a little chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And just blow through the round of 21 and then completely blow up the rest of the way there. And this is in 2008. And it was so hard. And I was so embarrassed that I didn't come back for 2 months.
Oh, really?
And okay. I secretly trained like CrossFit movements at a Globo gym to get in shape for CrossFit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which is what a lot of new people say when they join. It's like, oh, I'm not in good enough shape for CrossFit, or, all those excuses people have when they come to my gym. I'm like, listen, I was that guy. I was that guy that was too confident coming in and I didn't check my ego at the door. I was that guy that felt he wasn't in shape for CrossFit, so he did CrossFit by himself, and I didn't really do it the right way, so I just wasted 2 to 3 months that I could have gained in the gym, when in actuality is like, if you want to get in shape for CrossFit, then start doing CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be in shape for CrossFit. That's the point. It's a fitness program.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a sport yet. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Very cool. It's kind of like me too. I actually I did triathlons for a while, and I went pretty deep into triathlons, and like I always would read the magazines and I look at their bodies and I'm like, I really don't want to look like that. So like I would do like every other day I would like lift weights, like do the bro splits and stuff like that, and then after that I would go biking and go for a run, and then like I would swim right before I work out. And that was when I was single and like living with my girlfriend at the time, and like had absorbent amount of time to do whatever I wanted. And then so that's what I kind of did, and I kind of went into the Clydesdale division because I'm 6'6", and I was like I was like 225.
You're 6'6"?
Yeah.
All right, dude.
Yeah.
Dang.
So I had to get in the Clydesdale division because there was no way I was going to get in the normal division.
Oh, no.
And like I was going to get smoked, and I was just like, okay. And so I just did that.
That's funny.
And then I started doing the 300 workout because I saw those dudes like.
Yes.
And
that's how it all started.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, I could do this, and like it was only take a half an hour, but I was getting like the first time doing it, I got absolutely smoked, and I was just like, okay, I got to do something. And then I was in the Air Force, and I was at this airman leadership school to become a staff sergeant, and this girl's like, "Yeah, I'm doing CrossFit," and I'm like, "This, what's that?" And I kind of knew what it was a little bit, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm doing it," and like that's how I kind of got involved in triathlons. Like this one girl was like, "Oh, I'm doing triathlons." I'm like, "Well, if you could do it, I could do it," and so
Yeah.
went into the gym, the Air Force gym. They had a box there, and I was like, I want to try CrossFit. I've been doing the 300 workout forever, and he's just like, well, usually we do an onboarding program, but I think you look pretty good, so we're gonna skip that, and so you can do whatever you want.
Nice.
You'll learn on the fly, and I'm like, okay, all right, and that's how I got involved in CrossFit. I've been doing it ever since, and
That's awesome.
that was probably about like 2008 as well.
All right.
So.
Well, if you did the 300 workout, then I was going to guess like you were very close to the same time I was because, that was the old Jim Jones stuff.
Yeah, yep.
Because 300 came out, and that's really what got me hooked. I was like, okay, this is what I want to look like.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm tired of looking like a emaciated, soft, skinny, fat dude.
Yeah, and I did the 300 workout like three days a week.
Oh, dang.
So, yeah. And then I would just do the triathlon, like running and biking like the other days.
What's the furthest distance you went?
I typically did
or raced.
Well, I typically did sprints.
Okay.
Because like I my first one I did, it was in the ocean, and like I was like really nervous, and so like I was a pretty good swimmer, but then like I didn't realize like all these people together. And so I went to one dude that looked like a pro, and I'm like, dude, what should I do? And he's like, stay close to the buoy, because if you stay on the outside or in the middle, like that's where all the people are. If you stay towards like the middle, like the inside, you should be good. And I was like, okay. So I started doing the dove in, started doing the freestyle, and then all of a sudden I'm like getting slammed because I only go from my right side, and that's when the waves were coming in. I was getting slammed in the face, and I was like, forget it. So I started doing the breaststroke or like the survivor, the survivor stroke. And I was like, and then I got out and I was like, God, that sucked. But then it got a little bit better. But I think I did like a medium middle one too. So
okay,
it was mainly like sprints and just like little further distances.
Yeah.
So and then I was
that's awesome.
And then I was like, okay, and then I started having a kid, and I'm like, okay, this is not gonna happen anymore.
So, yeah, you can't do both.
No, there's no way. And like literally, I have my triathlon bike, and I have like my kids attached to the back in one of those like strollers.
No way.
To ride, and so. And obviously, the seat posts are like further up, so it's like I'm literally sitting there, and I feel like Mary Poppins on like one of those bicycles. So, and I'm like, okay, I got to sell this thing and get something different.
That's funny. So. Shoot, you can sell that thing and get lots of things different.
Yeah. And the only thing is, like, no one wants a size 63 centimeter triathlon bike. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't think about that part.
Yeah, I mean, this thing's massive, so it's like double the size of my wife's bike. It's insane.
I used my dad's old steel frame Bridgestone from like 1984.
Nice.
And just put like a carbon fork on the front and some nice wheels, but they weren't like carbon anything, and some aero bars, and that's what I raced on.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, I had a bike before, but I got stolen out of my car, so I had to go buy another one. So, and that's when I was like, screw, I'm going to go all in a tri bike.
Yeah.
And I kind of regret it, but whatever.
Nah.
So all good. But when you started doing CrossFit in with like since 2008, you decided to start actually own your own box. Like, what was the thought going through the whole process of like trying to own a box?
So when I started CrossFit, I was a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
Like, that's what I went to school for. I got a degree in mechanical engineering and a degree in mathematics. So my whole thing was like, I'm going to become an engineer because my grandfather is an engineer, and my dad is like a project manager for a bunch of like hotels and stuff. So I was like, okay, time to go to work. And I did that for about 3 years. And this was right. So I graduated in 2006. And that was right when like the economy just like completely dropped out.
Yeah.
So specialty jobs like engineering weren't easy to get and very hard to hold on to. And in the course of, I would say 2.5 years, I had 5 different jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, just hired and fired.
Yeah.
And what I found out these companies were doing is that, leading up to it, a lot of these companies had a lot of backlog work. Things in line, just kind of keep things going. So when they were getting no new work, they needed more engineers to get out their backlogged work. And so what would happen, and I would be hired, be there for 4 to 5 months, all their work's done, and then they'd let all the new guys go. And I was just going through this circular, a lot of failure is what it felt like.
Yeah.
And it sucked because, I worked really hard, and I've gotten every job I ever interviewed for, and I did my job, and I try to do more, not just like do it. And I really did like what I was doing. I did a bunch of different things, mechanical engineering wise. And I think after the 4th one, I'd have been working out at the CrossFit gym. And like, hey, if you want, you can just coach here. And I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, my parents would kill me. Like, my parents sent me to SMU for 5 years, bro. Like, I can't just walk away from that. And, I had said, I was like, okay, I am going to give it one more shot, give engineering like a real shot. And if that doesn't work, I'll come coach and then figure out what to do from there. Mm-hmm. All right. So get the 5th job. That doesn't work out. Same things, same stuff, different story. And I was like, all right, I'll start coaching. And at the time I met this dude who was in the FBI in the gym. And he's telling me everything he does is like, now this is what I want to do. It's like, my plan was join the FBI. And so when I was signing up, you need degrees. Like, you need degrees in things like accounting or finance or engineering or math. Mm-hmm. I was like, I got 2 of these. And so I registered, signed up, and like, you need 3 full years of work experience. So I was like, okay, I'll coach for 6 months, get my 3 years, train for the test, the physical test. And they had a main hub in Dallas.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And so in the process of training for this and coaching and getting set, I am like on this flag football team for the gym. And we play this one team that has this beautiful blonde girl on it that ends up being my current wife.
Nice.
And, we'll skip over the stories there, but, we started dating in this process within the last 6 months. And I was like, hey, here's the plan. And we had we've been together for maybe 2 weeks. And she's like, oh, I'm not sticking around for that. Because what it is like, you get the job, then you go to Chicago, then you go to Guantanamo Bay mm-hmm. for training, like 6 to 8 months. And then you go to Chicago first. And you're there for 2 to 3 years. And then they kind of send you random places.
Yeah.
Depending on what you want to do. You can kind of pick, but she's like, I just met you, bro. I just started law school. Like, she's a first semester law school student at SMU. And she's, like I said at the beginning, if Blake's anything like my wife, we'll be fine. It's like, I'm not sticking around for that. I was like, okay. And I was going to take the test the next morning. And I skipped it.
Wow.
I was like, I like this girl too much. I'm just going to coach with the intention of owning my own gym. I went to the owners. I was like, listen, okay, I'll be a full-time coach. I'll manage whatever it is you want me to do with the intention that down the road, I'm going to open up my own gym one day. Mm-hmm. Now that took 4 years.
Yeah. Hey, it works. It takes time.
And part of that was, it's 2009. CrossFit's finally getting a little popular. A lot of the first gyms in the area are losing their original coaches because they want to open up their own gyms. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge loyalty guy to a fault. And as that was happening, I was like, this BS, these guys are leaving and starting their own thing and hanging these dudes out to dry. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay and I'm going to help make this place great. And there's probably a certain time, like 2 years would have been plenty, but I was nervous. I was like, I'm not ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if I fail? Like anybody trying to start something, like you starting your podcast. Right? I have a podcast that I wanted to do 3 years ago, but I didn't have the balls to step up and do it. I mean, eventually I did, but man, what it would have been if I started 3 years ago when I wanted to.
Yep.
So like anything, there's a lot of that self-doubt and self-defeating, and you talk yourself out of it before you even give yourself a chance. And I did that for 2 years too long, but I eventually settled in, opened up my own affiliate, and we've been open. We just passed our 8-year anniversary in August.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations. That's
cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So what were the growing pains throughout like owning a gym for you?
For me, honestly, still is a lot of the business stuff.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's like I'm community first, coach second, and then every other hat you put on as an affiliate owner, right? It's like part-time psychiatrist and custodian and, you know, whatever it is, right? Whatever you need. And a lot of that was my priority. And I wish I had someone that had some type of like business background that just like took that. You know, we did the smart thing in the beginning is we hired an accountant to just do all of our tax stuff, you know, like sales tax, employee tax, and the year tax. Like they did that. Like that was the smartest thing I ever did on the business side. And that was like the last smart thing I ever did on the business side. So if we had someone that was more involved there, because I mean, that's the thing I learned, especially during quarantine. When we had to close, I'm like, man, you know, we've been doing this long, and then, you know, we lose a certain amount of members, but we're still able to like make things work. And I was like, I thought I was going month to month at a gym when I had 40% more people, but now I'm doing the same thing. What was I doing that many members ago? Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest growing pain is, you know, there's a thing for starting something because you love to do it. But then there's another thing that like, it is a business. You open this to be an entrepreneur, to run a business. It's okay to treat that like a business, but treat your people like people, right? And that was the thing I wish I trusted earlier. Because like, I say, it's like, I think I'm one of the best coaches in the world. I'm the worst businessman.
I think there's like no happy medium with that. It's either like you're one or the other. So
right. And so if I had the other, I could only imagine like where we would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we're not in a bad spot. Like we got through quarantine and everything, but still like that was a lesson learned late. But you know, live and learn.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So how many clients do you have at the gym now?
So we probably have around 90 members at the gym. Yeah.
Very cool. So
yeah.
Do you have like anybody that has disabilities at all that like you have in your group, and how do you go about with you know, helping out these people with like specific needs and attentions in the class?
We don't have too many. The main ones that we would currently work with are people that are just extremely overweight, which are awesome, right? It's like someone coming in that's like 200 to 250 pounds overweight is like my number one favorite person. I was like, you are a rock star just walking into this gym.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how hard that is to do, right? I had a problem walking into a CrossFit gym, and I was 23, and what I assumed was super fit that I found out that I wasn't, but like I was nervous about that, right? And so those are the ones that we work with, and it's been really cool to kind of go along that journey of learning with them. Like, what are the things we can do? How do we modify? How do we make this fit the time frame that the workout's supposed to be, doing something completely different? And then how do you make them feel okay about that? But we haven't had any adaptive athletes. Pregnancies is another one to work around and work with. Injuries, things like that, you know, like shoulder surgeries, hips, knees, backs, like those are it, but nothing like long lasting or permanent.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So I know you're a big programmer too. So when did you start programming your at your gym pretty much? Did you follow an affiliate program before that and then kind of went off on your own?
So I started programming when I was at my first gym where I was coaching.
Okay.
And a lot of that started with, we at the first gym, super old school, we're doing CrossFit and that's it. Right. Mm-hmm. Which is great. But then you have these, and it was predominantly male and a lot of like mid 40 to 50 midlife crisis fitness enthusiasts.
Yeah. Yep.
And like, listen, I want to get my wife in here because I spend too much time in here. So I want her to kind of see where I'm going and, get her in the gym and get her going and, something that you guys can share. And the answer that the owners would give would be like, well, we just do, because but she doesn't want to touch a barbell. He's like, well, that's all we do here. I was like, or we can make another program of all of these husbands' wives would like to do. And I talked them into letting me do it. It's kind of one of those like, fine, you do it. Mm-hmm. Like thinking that it wouldn't work. And I was like, I'll show you. And that's really where I started cutting my teeth in programming, was creating this new program that was CrossFit, but with just no barbells. Literally no different. It wasn't boot camp. It wasn't, beach body, the Brazilian butt lift lunge fest. Hey, look, we're going to do CrossFit alongside your husband, and you can do it with a pair of dumbbells instead of a barbell. It's not that hard to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I started. And then, that turned into, I started getting pretty competitive. So as I got more competitive, I got put more in charge of that avenue of the gym with the athletes. So I started programming for them. And that's really kind of where it started, was out of necessity.
Very cool.
Asking. The thing I've learned through any type of business adventure or job that I've gotten is like, I am no longer afraid to ask for anything I'm willing to work my ass off for. Mm-hmm. So I was like, listen, I'll run it, guys. You don't have to, I'll price it. I'll do punch card. Just let me try this. You don't have to do anything.
Yep.
I'll make it work.
Very cool.
And when I left, it was like the most popular program in the gym, which drove them a little nuts because it wasn't like the CrossFit program that was the most popular thing. But it's like low barrier of entry. It's like, hey, yeah, we have our on-ramp. It's like, listen, if you don't want to do any on-ramp, just come over here.
Yeah.
We do the most basic movements known to man in CrossFit, but we do it well and we have fun. And you don't have the intimidation of a barbell. But what the point is that all of these people would do all these things watching the CrossFit class on the other side of the gym. And then eventually curiosity gets the best of you. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to do that. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's jump in a one-on-one, learn all the barbell moves with the moves you've been doing for 3 months and get in there. And, it was his own like circular ecosystem. So I thought it was great. I thought it was a really cool deal.
Very cool. So I've heard through the grapevine you're not a big fan of deadlifting. What's the reason for that?
The reason is I suck at it. So nobody likes anything that they suck at. And the other one is deadlifting, specifically anything north of 225. And even more specifically, a deadlift that weighs 315 is the single reason why I'm not a 3-time CrossFit Games athlete.
Okay.
I'm a 1-time CrossFit Games athlete. And so I made the CrossFit Games in 2010. And then in 2011, we were training for regionals and this event got programmed. And it was 21:15.9, deadlifts at 315, and 30-inch box jumps. And I notoriously was already bad at deadlifting. Like I have a longer swimmer torso and I don't have a lot of strength in my upper back. So deadlifting really is like, just with my body type, I wasn't good at it. But training for that, I really ended up kind of hurting my back. There wasn't a lot of coaching back then. It was a lot of just go fast, pick it up.
Yeah.
And, that's on me. And so that event absolutely destroyed me at regionals. And I missed the CrossFit Games because of it. Just that one workout. And then in 2012, I had to miss that year because I had to have my shoulder reconstructed. And then in 2013, I had rehab back. Like, I'm back, baby. Better than ever. And the only repeat regional event in the history of CrossFit. Got repeated was a 21:15.9 deadlift box jump workout. And at the time going into that event, so that was the second event of the second day. There had already been 4 events prior, 3 events left. And I was in the lead by such a margin, there was almost no way I wasn't going to the CrossFit Games. If I just finished like mid-pack, like 20 or better for 3 more events, I'm in. Now, I'd already been, I've already won 1 event and got 3rd in another. So, like, I was there. And in the first, 7 reps, and I didn't train deadlifts that much because I couldn't.
Yeah.
It would just re-aggravate an injury. And coming off shoulder surgery, I couldn't pull heavy weight off the ground. Like, it just, I had to have my bicep reattached. My whole rotator cuff was torn. So all that, like, you can't really do heavy deadlifts in rehab. So now I'm 2 years removed from any real deadlift training. And in the middle of that workout at the regionals, I just messed my back up again. And so, yeah, me and deadlifts don't vibe very well. And it's not to say the event was bad. Like, it's a great event. It's intense, it's heavy, it's high, it's great. I just have had a different experience with it.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't like deadlifts. I think they're a wonderful training movement. However, my body does not respond well to pulling heavy off the ground.
So what's your 1 rep max for right now?
Right now, I couldn't tell you, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that the last heavy deadlift I pulled for like a workout was like 365.
Okay.
The most I ever did was 435.
Damn, that's still good. That's really good.
That was in like peak training condition when everybody else was pulling like 5 something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
we don't vibe.
I do remember a regional they were doing. There was when Chandler Smith finally started to open up with Ben Smith with a deadlift workout that they did.
Yep.
I was actually there at that regional.
Oh, were you there?
Yeah, it was super cool. It was awesome. Like, you saw Chandler Smith just ripping them, and you see Ben Smith doing it, and then everyone's like, "Oh crap, this kid's gonna catch up to him." And so there was, I believe in that one, there was like 3 rows over. There was a kid at the 405. He only did 1 deadlift, and that was it, because that was probably his 1 rep max. And I felt so bad for him. And I was like this. At the time, I'm like, shit, you probably can. I wouldn't be able to pull that off the ground, let alone like getting 1. So like, at least you got 1 up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and after all the GHD sit-ups and the running that you had to do, like that event, that was when I started to think like maybe I'm no longer cut out for this competition stuff. If we're programming 3 rounds of like 7 deadlifts at 405.
Yeah, I was like, woof. Like, I don't know how those guys did it. And like some of them were doing like both overhand deadlifts. Like Travis Mayer, I saw him like ripping through those, and I was like, okay. Like,
yeah, I don't switch grip anymore either.
Yeah. I'm the same way too.
Overhand.
I just do both overhand because like my thing is that's probably a better way to work on your clean anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
So very cool. I also heard from another grapevine. Let's just say Dave Castro quit his job, and he asked you to do it. Would you consider doing it?
Oh, like
programming and everything?
Programming?
Yeah.
Heck yeah, I would. Are you kidding me? That's a dream job, man. That's a dream job. Like, I love programming. It's probably my favorite part of CrossFit other than training and competing. I mean, coaching's great. Like, I have a huge passion for it, but programming is my favorite thing to do in CrossFit. And just learning new things and getting fresh ideas. That's why the open and regionals and like, that's why these seasons are so fun to me, because like we just get new ideas and like fresh concepts and things you would never think of before. And it's part of the cool thing about these sectional, what are they called now? Semifinals.
Yeah, whatever they are, yeah.
And you see a lot of fresh ideas and fresh programming. But yeah, if Dave ever retired and I could like pay to do that, not get paid to do that. If I could pay to do that, that's the job I want. The one I don't even get paid for. Very cool.
So I kind of want to get in the broadcasting portion of this this podcast. So what made you get into broadcasting in the first place?
So funny, so I said between the years 2011, 2013, I had to have shoulder surgery in 2012.
Yep.
And what ended up happening is, when I swam, our shoulders always hurt. That was just what it was. And you didn't get out of the pool ever. Like, there was a huge peer pressure thing. Like, if you got out of the pool, you're like, you pussy. Like, there was a lot of that going around. Yeah. And that's just how we grew up. And in high school, I was playing pickup basketball with a bunch of swimmers. And swimmers predominantly are not made for land sports. Mm-hmm. That's why they're swimmers, right? We're the least athletic athletes in the world. And I was running down the court and lost my footing and just like landed full speed, arm extended out, just hit the ground hard. And I have never been in pain like that. I think that might be the most pain I've ever been in. And I couldn't move my arm for a week. And I had like a water polo tournament the next weekend. And it was my last one. I was a senior in high school. So I played left-handed the whole time. And, eventually it went away. And fast forward to 2012, like my shoulder was just killing me. Because as I got stronger, I started lifting more weight and doing more gymnastics and walking on my hands and doing handstand push-ups and ring dips, like as you evolve. And the cool thing about functional movements is that it forces you to move in natural movement patterns. Mm-hmm. And so my shoulder was just getting worse. And I was like, all right. So I went and get it looked at. And right away, the ortho was like, when did you separate your shoulder? I was like, what are you talking about? And like the way he was like, look at me. I was like, oh my gosh, back in high school. And what had ended up happening is like, I didn't have a shoulder injury due to CrossFit. I had a shoulder injury discovered by CrossFit.
Wow.
And I ended up having, they did an arthrogram, which is where they put dyes in your shoulders and they see like any leaks in your rotator cuff. And sure enough, my biceps tendon was about to rupture. It was 95% torn. Bone spurs, my shoulder was separated, and I tore my rotator cuffs. That was when I played basketball that one time in high school. So I had swam 5 years in college, triathlons, 2 years of CrossFit on a shoulder that was about to just fall off my body. So I had shoulder surgery, and this is right when the Open started, and I had no idea what to do with my life. I had to basically put my identity into being a CrossFit Games athlete. I was like, because I was like, finally elite. I put that in massive quotations at a sport.
Yeah.
Right. Like our dream as Olympic athletes in the sport was to make the Olympics. Well, I never did that, but I made the CrossFit Games. I was like, okay, this is as close as it's going to get.
Yeah.
And I was kind of lost and confused. And this was during the update shows with like Roy McKernan in a bow tie and like an empty room where the echo was terrible. And I sat down with a buddy of mine, and his name's Richard Drew. And he's a guy I trusted, and, just trying to confide in him. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm in a sling. I'm depressed. And he goes like, why don't you write a segment for the CrossFit Games update show? I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. I was like, what should it be on? He's like, well, up in 10, 11, and 12, or going on 12, I had coached and assembled 2 teams to the CrossFit Games.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
And there was, at the time, there was kind of a formula by the way the programming was. And I was like, great idea. He's like, so I emailed the one person I knew in CrossFit media a pitch for the idea. I was like, how to pick teams for the CrossFit Games. That was my idea, which I thought would be a cool segment, right? And his name was Dave Ray. He was a photographer. And he's like, I'll forward it on. And he took it, he forwarded it to Tony Budding, which was kind of the director of media at CrossFit at the time. And like 4 days later, Rory McKernan calls me.
Very cool.
He's like, hey, have you ever broadcasted before? I was like, no. He's like, well, we're looking for broadcasters. We're going to go to the Central East and broadcast regionals for the first time, really live, officially. He's like, do you want to do it? I was like, absolutely. And we go to regionals, and there's like 12 of us, and they're just trying out. I mean, this is first time grassroots, right place, right time moment of broadcasting. And I was terrible, absolutely terrible. Somehow got asked to come back to the CrossFit Games. Did even worse there. And I guess I couldn't find anybody better because they asked me to come back the next year. And that's really how it happened. And that goes along with what I said earlier, is that I just asked someone that I knew that did me a solid, that passed on my information to someone else and was like, okay, I'll work for this, whatever it takes. And that's really how it got started.
Very cool.
They were just looking for people. I happened to ask. They figured this is close enough. And yeah, the rest is history. I guess, I haven't screwed it up too much yet.
Yeah, very cool. So what did you think, like, obviously you were broadcasting for this year's CrossFit Games, like, so what did you think about the programming for that? And how would your thought about programming, like, what would you change for those games?
For this year's CrossFit Games?
Yes.
I thought it was a great year.
I thought it was too. I really liked it.
Great year of programming. Some of the wrinkles in there were super cool. The late platform deal, that was super cool. The way they did pegboards this year was a sneaky way, because usually people rest a lot in those, and Dave making the athletes move, or the judges move their pylons so the athletes had to go back to the wall faster, was super cool. Mm-hmm. Calling back the wall walks because everybody hated it in the open was classic Dave Castro. Isolating 3 different modalities, like a sprint run with a monostructural, a snatch only, and then like a handstand walk course. I thought it was really cool. I thought the programming was great. I thought the weekend was great. A lot of upper body endurance. You look at a lot of, like rope climb, ski erg, row, deadlift, freestanding handstand walks, wall walks. I mean, there's a lot of that. I think that took a lot of focus for some people who were just trying to find things in the programming, but I think top to bottom, it's one of the best years they've ever had.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I watched the whole thing and I was like, this is awesome. Like, I wasn't a big fan of, like, mainly most of the sprint ones when they were doing the cuts and everything like that. I thought was like, okay. Yeah. And then they started doing like heavy lifting, and I'm like, you literally cut some males and females that were like pretty legit weightlifters and could like lift some crazy weight. And yet you have, I mean, granted, they deserve to be in the top 10, but, you have girls that can't even do 225.
Right, the opening barbell.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, all right. And granted, there was one guy that couldn't do 315 because he ripped his, like, hamstring. He, like, pulled his hamstring. Yeah. So right. I'm not counting that, but I'm just saying, like, there were some legit dudes can put, like, Scott Panchik and, Matt Fraser, like, in a, give them a competition.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that's when they announced the cuts this year in 2021, everybody lost their mind because they're thinking about 2019, right? So, and the cuts in 2019 were bad. That was a bad program. That was just a bad go. And that wasn't on Dave. And I think a lot of people don't really know that, is that wasn't Dave Castro's call. That was Greg Glassman's call. He wanted to cut every down until, I think it was 7 or 8 events, until you came to your final 10. And I think originally he wanted just 7 events. It's like, cut it down every event and then find your champ. Like, Dave extended it to I think 13 events that were that year. So yes, they didn't appropriately test and vet the field when they made their final cut in 2019 to the top 10. And exactly because, they had a sprint instead of a lift, and they hadn't done a lift yet. I think that would have changed a lot. But in 2021, you had 9 events before they cut the bottom 10. And it was really like the bottom 4 because there wasn't a full field by the time we got to 9 events. And yes, you cut down to 20 after 10 events, but, people forget if they don't know their history. It's like from 2007 to 2010 and 2011, they crowned the fittest man and woman on earth with 9 or less events. To crown them. Yeah. I think we can cut to the top 20 in 10. Mm-hmm. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Right? Sorry you got cut. I got cut. I got cut after 4 events at the CrossFit Games. You don't see me complaining about that. Right? And that's just what it is. Mm-hmm. That's sports. Yeah. And the thing is, like, people, and this is the great thing about our fans, is that they're super fans. right? And they've got their favorites and they want to see everybody play, and they take this CrossFit community mentality that you have in your gym and they bring it to the stage at the CrossFit Games. However, this is a sport. This is not your affiliate. We cut people, people miss, people get hurt, people, have bad weekends, and your fan favorite may not make it. And that's the beauty of sports, in my opinion, other than like the getting hurt thing. But I think they took what happened in 2019 and applied it to 2021. But if you really take a step back, these athletes got a full test through 9 events and an even better one in 10, and we only cut to 20. I thought it was a great year.
Yeah, I agree too. So, I mean, I thought it was the best one yet to come. And I'm looking forward to what he has in store for this year, upcoming year too, which will be interesting. So
he seems very excited.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know him. I don't know him personally. I've never talked to the guy or even seen him. But like, yeah, he seems pretty excited for it, like you said. Yeah. So, very cool. So I want to get into the podcast stuff, but it's getting a little bit late. So, and I don't want to take too much of your time. So,
hey, I'm here. You're good.
Okay. All right. So, obviously, you said you wanted to start the podcast earlier. Mm-hmm. So, what was the final straw of like, okay, this is the podcast I'm starting. This is what it's gonna be all about, and why.
So, the podcast started getting popular, like really popular. I don't know, 2018, 2019, maybe.
Yeah.
And for me, I love being able to bring the sport of CrossFit to people. And I want to bring like my love for it. It's like, hey, listen, I know you're watching, but let me tell you exactly what you're watching, why this is awesome, why you should care, and why you should not go anywhere for the next 6 hours and just watch. Like, that is super important to me. I'm very passionate about CrossFit as a whole. And so in podcasting, like in the off season, there really wasn't any gigs really that much in the off season, but I still wanted to like talk about CrossFit. And I didn't really know what avenue to go in or what to do. And, there was a lot of, especially in 2019, when stuff was hitting the fan. And then it seemed like everybody had a podcast to just talk about all the crap that was going on at the time.
Yep.
And I didn't want to do that. That's just not, I don't like news. I don't like gossip. I don't like drama. I can't stand it. I'll listen, I'll try to get informed, but at the end of the day, a lot of it's just people talking. And I wanted to separate myself into something niche, into something I was very passionate about. And so one of those was, okay, my buddy Sean and Tommy started talking Elite Fitness, where they just talk about everything that is really about the CrossFit Games, but it's still like CrossFit. They do kind of everything, right? I was like, I definitely don't want to do that. One, out of respect to those guys. Mm-hmm. And two, I don't really want to talk about that. I want to talk about kind of workouts and programming, the things that I love to do the most. Mm-hmm. And the person that also shares that same sentiment with me is Bill Grundler. We've been broadcasting together for near a decade at the time I was thinking about this. And by the time I had this, I was like, okay, what do I call it? Something at the programming. I don't know what it is. And then I'll be like, no, it's dumb. This is a dumb idea. I'm not going to do that. Nobody wants to listen to me talk. That's just how I feel. I still feel like that. Mm-hmm. And finally, the 2019 stuff happened. So this was prior to that. And then like Sean and Tommy started their podcast. I was like, you know what? Come on. Well, let's just do it. Okay. And I keep saying that, and then I put it off for 3 months. So finally, what I started doing, and this is very effective, because it either gets you in gear or it makes you look like bad. Mm-hmm. I started telling people I wanted to start a podcast.
Oh, I do that too. I'm notorious for doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, all right, I want to start a podcast. Like, about what? I was like, about programming. Like, well, how? I was like, I don't know. You sit around the table and talk about the CrossFit Games programming. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool concept. What else? I was like, that's really it. It's like, we can make up certain things, like bring on 3 guys and talk about why they should never program partner deadlifts in an event for the rest of our CrossFit lives. And I stand, that's actually a real statement. I truly believe that partner deadlifts are the worst movement. I
completely agree about that too. Yeah.
Ever program. Well, you're 6'6", so like you actually get it. Everyone else is like, what's the problem? I don't see what the big deal is. It's like, okay, get tall and then do it with a short girl.
So all right, great example. I went to Travis Mayer's, CrossFit gym because it's like 10 minutes away from my house, and I did it.
Okay.
We had a partner workout, and I partnered with a dude. So we looked like twins. Like he was Danny DeVito, and I was on a Schwarzenegger, and just height wise. And I'm sitting there and we were doing, I think it was like 405 or something like that. I mean, that was even enough. And it was to the point where he got full extension and I still was mid thigh and leaned over, and my lower back just got absolutely fried. And I even had a weight belt on, and it still was killing me for the next couple of days. I'm like, I'm never going to do this again. I'll just do it single by myself. And we'll just switch on and off because there's no way I'm going to do partner deadlifts ever.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a terrible idea. So eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I got the equipment, and this was during quarantine. I was like, what better time? I was like, okay, I'm going to to my 2 quarantine things. I'm going to potty train my son, and then I'm going to start a podcast. And so I call Bill. And at the time I started this, they just released the age group online qualifier events.
Perfect time.
I was like, hey, Masters, Bill, you come on the show. And because I was just like, I'm going to start a podcast. I'd like you to be my first guest. So Bill was my first guest. Mm-hmm. And we went through it, and it was terrible. I go back and listen. I'm like, oh man, the growing pains that we had. Because I don't know how do I talk on a podcast? Do I just talk normal? Do I pretend like I'm broadcasting? What do I do? And we went through it. We did that. And we're like, okay, let's do another one. And then by the third one, I was like, hey, Bill, do you want to do this with me? Because I don't want to do this by myself. And we have a great rapport. We like I said, we've been broadcasting together for years. We've done all the off-season events together. We did Granite Games. We did Wadapalooza. We did Dubai. And I was like, I just don't trust anyone else to do this with me, to care as much, because Bill also loves programming. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started. And so I told everybody that I was going to do it. So then I had to do it. And then once I started it, I was like, okay, if people listen to this, great. If not, whatever. It's another opportunity for us to also stay fresh.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we only broadcast it every 3 or 4 months, there's some rust. There's some chemistry you got to regain. And so that was another reason for it. It's okay, how do we keep ourselves, it really was how do we keep ourselves relevant in the CrossFit media space when there is no more CrossFit media, right? When there are no more broadcasting jobs.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is one of them. So that was another reason behind doing it. And it's great, man. We have a great time. We stick to our niche. Every once in a while, we'll do fun little episodes that we'll do off to the side. But it's a year and a half now, I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we started it last March. So yeah, a year and a half.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Yeah, well, I've had growing pains with this podcast too. My first interview, I think I've talked about this before. I did a diabetic weightlifter, and she came to Atlanta to do a weightlifting competition. And so she was following me on Instagram, and I was like, oh, I'll just go watch her do a workout because I was on vacation. So I was just like, okay, I'll just go down there. And I had 2 lapel mics, and I used my cell phone with the Anchor app on it. And I was like, I don't know, maybe she'll be interested in doing a podcast. And so after her meet, I was like, hey, would you want to do a podcast with me? And she's like, sure. So we recorded in a Panera Bread, and after we finished eating lunch. And I'm like, you could hear people in the background, and I'm asking her questions and stuff like that. And people are looking at us like, what are you doing? And I was like, it was cool because I was just mainly focused on her, and then listening to it, and still it was one of the top 6 podcasts that I have right now. But it's just learning from even going on Zoom, Skype, and then asking questions, and how do you do your setup and stuff like that. I'm still learning too, when it's I've been doing it for almost 2 years.
Yeah. Well, you got the right mic.
Well, yeah, I know.
I love that. I love that mic.
Yeah, this is the one mic I was just like, all right, I'm gonna get this, and that's it. So.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna splurge on myself. I'm gonna get that Rodecaster Pro mic.
Yeah, my wife. I showed my wife like how much it cost. She's like, "You really spent that much for a microphone?" And so I was just like,
yeah, I didn't do that. I just bought it.
Well, yeah, I just bought it anyway too. But I was just like, whatever. This is like the thing I'm gonna splurge on, and then I can get something else for Christmas, and I'll just use that and kind of work my way around it. So, because originally I was doing podcasts on my old company's computer with the 2 lapel mics and the phone, and I'd be like doing interviews during like work hours because I was working from home because it was like the whole quarantine outbreak, and I'm like, no one's gonna know what I'm doing, so like, what's the point? Like, I'll just like interview people like during the day, and then like keep on working after, and just I'll be fine. So
yeah,
you know, and then finally I got my own computer.
That's
and then,
funny.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So, and I know it's a lot of fun for you too. So
yeah, cool. It is. Like I would be talking about any of this stuff anyways if I had a platform. So I was like, all right, I'll just create my own platform. And if people want to listen to it, great. But it's just something I love to talk about. It's a subject and genre in CrossFit that I'm super passionate about. And, you know, I want people to really understand like what good programming should and can look like. And that the fact that it doesn't have to look the same to be good. Mm-hmm. Right. And what bad is. And, you know, without trying to be condescending or tear other people down, but like just be very educational. It's like, look, this is not it, right? But here's how it can be. Here's how close we were. This is what's going to make it better. The last thing you want to do is just like bash something and give no constructive feedback on the other end. So it's been really cool. I'm shocked that it is what it is, that we're still doing it, that people want to listen to it. I find that very humbling, and in a way to like, okay, I want to do more, but I want to do more better, right? And so it's been cool. It's been a little journey.
Yeah, very cool. So what are the plans for the rest of the year for the podcast?
So right now we started with what we call an analyzing the programming series, and we pick an event and then we go through it. And started off with obviously with the H Group Online Qualifier. And then with no events going on, we're like, okay, let's just backtrack every CrossFit Games that there ever was. And then let's dissect it to see if this was actually a true test to find the fittest person on earth. So we went from 2007 all the way through 2021. And then once we finished the games, we went through every open. And, you know, we'll do events that come up like Rogue Invitational or, you know, Dubai or Wadapalooza. We'll go through events like that. And, we're currently in our regionals series. We just recorded 2014. I think we released that early this morning. So as we get through our regional ones, which will take us up to 2018, what we like to do at the end of each one is, we did this for the CrossFit Games, so we still need to do this for the Open, is we partnered with Talking Elite Fitness with Sean Woodland and Tommy Marquez, and we did a bracket-style elimination tournament of the greatest CrossFit Games event ever programmed.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good
Total one. Subjectivity, right? Like it could be nothing to do with the programming. In fact, the event that won, if you just like think about the programming, it was super basic.
Yeah.
Right. But we had like a 4-hour mega episode, 48 event bracket style elimination tournament. And so we're going to do the same thing with the Open. When the regionals is over, we'll do the same thing there. And then by that time, we'll be kind of all caught up with the past. And then it'll all be centered around with the present. And, we have the Rogue Invitational coming up in Wadapalooza and Dubai. And we'll sit back and analyze the programming post the event, because we want to see how it unfolds. Because a lot of times, and this will happen in the games a lot, is you'll read something on paper. You're like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
And then when it unfolds in front of you, you're like, oh, that was pretty cool. Or like this one kicks ass, and then you see it go, and you're like, oh, that did not play out the way I thought it was going to play out. So it's things like that. So that's really what we do. The big thing we want to do going forward is we have a series called Behind the Programming, where we, all these training camps now, we go and talk to basically like the head programmer, and just get a peek behind the curtain of what they do. And we'll do that with, big events coming up, and we'll have guests on. We have another segment called Fitness Freaks, that guys that do like crazy fitness things, like Adam Klink, who did the first 500-pound back squat in sub 5-minute mile in the same day.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had another guy on who did a 500-pound deadlift into a mile and did it all under 5 minutes, which is insane because he did the deadlift in spikes.
Oh my gosh.
And ran like a 4:52 mile. And we're talking about like, hey, how much do you train the track? He goes, never. It's like, you just ran a sub 5, and so that's a fun little. And then we do something called Mount Rush moments. So when we do broadcasting anywhere, after the day was over, we sitting at dinner having a beer and just not talking very much. But by the time we kind of got back, because we talk all day, the last thing I want to do at dinner is talk more.
Yeah.
So we're just sit there quietly sipping a beer, and then we'll go, hey, what were your top 4 moments today? Top 4. Like, but what we say is like, what was your Mount Rushmore of moments today? And so we have a segment called Mount Rush Moments, which is our top 4 moments of a certain year, the weekend. So that, we have a lot of fun episodes and segments that come up randomly. And, that's where we're going.
Very cool. Did you, I know it was a while ago, but Austin Malleola, he deadlifted 600 pounds and then did the marathon after.
Yeah. So that was a segment we did where Klink had just tried the 500-pound back squat and then ran like a 5:06 mile or 5:12.
Yeah. And
so we had a fan service episode. So we say we don't get into the news, but every once in a while we'll dip our toe into it, and we call it fan service. It's like, all right, do you guys want to talk about a little news stuff? Okay, we'll dip our toe into that. And so we had as like, what's more impressive, a 500-pound back squat in a 5-minute mile, or a 600-pound deadlift and a marathon? And so we just had a little roundtable discussion there. We had Austin Malio on talking about the CAP programming, so the CrossFit affiliate program. And that's really what we center things around. So it's been really cool. Very cool.
Very cool. All right, so we got some rapid fire questions. So,
ooh, okay.
What's one of the big, like, out of like doing your podcast, what person would you want on the show to talk about like programming or anything?
Before we had Dave Castro on, it was Dave Castro. Now I want to get Ben Bergeron on. I want to get Shane Orr. I want to get all these, really start getting into these training camp directors and programmers. I want to get them all on there. So there's not one dude with that. That's our next avenue.
Okay.
But yeah, we've gotten Dave on, so like I was good.
Okay, cool. Very cool. So what are your goals, like broadcasting or like pretty much anything for the rest of the year?
So we have I would love to do Rogue Invitational, Dubai, that just got announced, Wadapalooza, like all these off-season ones. Like those are the dream jobs, man. Like those are the ones everybody wants to see in the off-season. And really, it's just to keep the job I have, right? I want to be back for the Open. I want to go to a semifinals. I want to be broadcasting the CrossFit Games. Like, and a lot of it, I think it's like a meritocracy is kind of the, like, what have you done for me lately type hierarchy. And, once the games are over, I'm going back to work and just studying up and keeping myself sharp in the event I get my name called again. Because once it's over, I assume the book is closed and I have to earn it right back the next year. So
yeah,
fingers crossed for 2022.
All right, very cool. Do you have a favorite book you like to read?
Ooh, like a repeater book?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Honestly, the one series I stuck with the most was called the Prey series. And it was written by James Patterson, I believe, and had this main character called Lucas Davenport, and he's a detective in the Twin Cities.
Oh, cool.
There's like 14 or 15 books in that. Like my dad got me hooked on it, so that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, if you like his books, there's a book called Toys.
Okay.
So it's a kind of like a James Bond / like Jason Bourne kind of book.
Ooh,
so
all right.
It's like super sci-fi. Like they have people that have like robotic, like, you know, internal like things in them to like make them superhumans, and it's very, very interesting. I was stationed down in San Antonio, Texas, just bored, and so I read that whole book in like one day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And the thing with his chapters, they're so short. They're like, oh, I could just go for like next chapter's 2 more pages. I'll just keep on going. So I was like, okay, I'll just keep on going. I was bored, and I was like, I just finished it. So big fan of
honestly,
that book.
Yeah, it's like I don't read a lot, but when I do, I can't stop reading. Yeah. It's one of those things I got to get back into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to get back into it too. I'm reading No Pain No Gains right now with the game what's his face? The guy from Fixer Upper. Chip Gaines.
Oh. You know, people say I look like that guy.
A little bit. I mean, you got the script.
I mean, not with a hat and heads off, yeah.
Yeah. But like his book's about networking, so it's like interesting to kind of see his side of like networking. Okay. So it's his latest book, and it's a very short read.
Okay. So I want to read that Strong Dad, Strong Daughter that you mentioned. Yeah. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, I'll see if I could get it. If I can find it for you, and I'll just let you know who the author is. But
all right,
cool. What would you tell somebody, you know, when they're trying to get into the broadcasting or podcasting, what to expect?
Just a lot of growing pains, a lot of uncomfortability, a lot of vulnerability, and just to be okay with that. Because honestly, for me, is everyone knows when you're faking it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, if you're not authentic, it doesn't mean you have to be good. That's subjective to the person listening to your podcast. Like, if you are doing it for other people, then nobody wants to listen to that. Right? Mm-hmm. If you're doing it for yourself, right? When I broadcast, I don't broadcast for me. I broadcast for my love for CrossFit. So that's what I really try to bring to the table. And some people don't like it. And some people, you know, that's just what it is, right? And so, you know, the saying is like, if you try to please everybody, you end up pissing everybody off, right? But if you're authentic to you and you just do it for yourself, then just let the chips fall where they may. Because if you go outside of that, one, it's no fun to pretend like you're somebody else, right? And so why be upset on both sides? It's like, listen, I love what I do, and this is what I do. If people love it, great. If not, then so be it. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to love it. And that's the point. And I think a lot of people shut their own dream down because like, oh, someone's not going to like this. I'm like, well, no crap. Like, not everybody's going to love it. Yeah. And some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to tell you how much they hate what you do. Who cares? Right? Yep. It doesn't matter. You're not doing it for them. Mm-hmm. You're doing it for you and those that you inspire when you are more authentic to yourself. So don't sell yourself short by being somebody else. Be true to yourself, fall forward, and then just let the chips fall where they may.
Very cool. So here's another question that Joel gave me. So I heard you're not a big fan of the comment section on social media. Why?
I don't look at them. I just don't. Because the internet is stupid.
I'm well aware of that. I see that stuff all the time, so I know.
Yeah. And judge the life on what people write in the comment section. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And so for me, it's like, I don't read any of that. I'm like, hey, did you see the Reddit thing? Like, no, why? What is the point? Because like, if somebody tells me I'm great, I don't sit back and be like, you know what? I am great. Yeah. You're right. And if somebody tells me I'm crap, then what am I supposed to do? Ride that roller coaster? So I don't. In fact, I find it hilarious. It's like people who don't even know me. Like someone's going to have something negative to say. It's the same thing I said about the podcast. It's like, listen, clearly you are not going to be pleased by anything that gets said tonight in this broadcast. And if you just don't like me for whatever reason, then okay, you don't have to like me. we don't need to ever meet, and we don't need to be friends, and you can just listen to somebody else. Right? And so, yes, I do not live in the comment section of anything. I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't, because I'm not doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you really do hate my broadcasting, well, I'm sorry. It's not for everybody.
I'm like, you could press mute and kind of do your own broadcasting.
Or like, oh, I want to watch the individuals and you're doing the individuals and I can't stand you talking. I was like, well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to change for you.
Yep. Totally.
Right? And I'm not going to like cater to those that like what it is, because like I said, everybody is different. They like different things, and sometimes they like what I say and sometimes they don't. And I don't care or put any stock in the comment section, which I'll read it to Joel. Like, check this out. But I know people that like live and die by it. Like on Reddit, reading what people say about them. I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself? They don't even know you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, does this look like the person that you're like, hey, will you just like meet me for coffee so we can just like hash this out? No. Like, if I wouldn't take advice from you, why would I take your criticism?
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, so no, I pay no mind to the comment section. And if it comes across my screen, you're like, you are the worst BOS broadcaster I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah. Usually if they spell something wrong, that's my response. It's like, you spelled this word wrong.
That's awesome. I got to do that too. So
get your trolling right. You spelled my name wrong.
Very cool. So let's just say like everything you've done is like you're not doing it anymore. Yeah. And like, it's the last days. And how do you want people to know? Like, how do you want people to know you as?
Oh man, a guy that loved to serve, and that's really it. In any aspect of my life, like, I want to take care of my kids. I want to be the best dad in the world. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best coach. I want to be the best gym owner. I want to be the best broadcaster. I want to be the best whatever. And all of that is not to say I am the best. It's that I gave you the best. Mm-hmm. That's why I want to be the best. So, I try to be as selfless as I can. I end up being very selfish. I think most people, we all have that. That's just the nature of being humans. I don't try to make up for anything. It's like, oh, I have these deep, dark sins that I'm trying to wash clean with all this like charity and goodwill. I was like, no, I genuinely love to help other people. I live and die by the successes of those that are in my care. Mm-hmm. And so I'll celebrate you if I helped you get there more than anything I could have ever done on my own. And that's it. Like, I hope is real, genuine, and just cared about everybody. That's very what cool. I would like.
Right. Love it. Love it.
Cheesy, but that's what it's about.
Hey, I'll take it. That's what you want. So it's nobody else wants that. So
yeah, exactly. Like, if you drop a comment and you think that's a stupid answer, I don't care. That answer wasn't for you.
Very cool. So where can people like reach out to you? Obviously not the comment section, but where can people reach out to you if they have any questions with like podcasting or broadcasting or anything like owning a gym?
So you can hit me up on Instagram. It's just Chase_Ingraham, and my last name is spelled a little different, Ingraham. I always say IN and then the word Graham, like graham cracker. My email, Chase at CrossFit Big D. That's the affiliate I own here in Dallas. Same Instagram handle for that one. Programming is Get With The Programming. Get With _The Programming is us on Instagram. It's really hard to not be able to get a hold of me, which worries my wife sometimes, that I make it I'm too accessible. Mm-hmm. But like, I want to be accessible.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to help anyone or talk about anything. And, it's like, we were talking earlier about coming on the podcast. Like, dude, there's nothing more. I'd love to come and talk to you on a podcast. Like, this isn't a favor. This was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so I appreciate you even wanting me to be on this. So this wasn't, shoot, we've been talking for what, hour and a half?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the recording's
Yeah,
about
sorry, I'm sorry I made your podcast so late.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I appreciate it. Like you taking the time, like talking to you. I mean, I have like so many other questions I could ask you, but like obviously like it's getting late and I'm a 4:30 in the morning guy to wake up.
Yes, yeah, me too.
To a gym guy, too. So. But nothing against that, but like I need my sleep too. So but,
yeah,
well, thank you very much for doing this. I really do. Like I said, I can't say enough. Thank you very much for doing this. Like,
yeah, I appreciate it.
I loved learning all like about you being a parent, owning a gym, programming, the podcast, and like everything else. So thank you very much.
No, man, my pleasure. Obviously, I can talk forever.
Yeah. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.